Today I'm going to tell you about one of my most memorable interview failures. And I failed a lot of interviews, but never have I given up over $450,000 in total comp from an elite crypto trading company. I did the first round interviews, went all the way to on-site, did a project, met the entire team, including the CTO, but it still didn't work out. In this video, I'm going to walk you through the entire process, along with some lessons I've learned along the way. And at the end, I'm going to tell you that even though in the moment it seemed like the end of the world, it was so integral and pivotal to my growth to where I've ended up now. If you're new to the channel, welcome. My name is Namanh. I studied CS at Rice, interned at a bunch of places, Schlumberger, Microsoft, and then a startup in San Francisco called Gusto. After graduating, I joined a fintech startup in San Francisco called Bolt, and it was the ride of a lifetime. 3 long but extremely fun years until I was ultimately laid off and then laid myself off, and that's a whole saga you can check out if you want. If you're tuning into the recruiting series, welcome back. I've already told you about the trash tech market, all the interviews I've been through, and then an update on me still not having a job. Well, today I'm going to deep dive into an interview that changed the way I think about interviews. It all starts when I reach out to my friend, who is going to be nameless, but a good friend of mine from a fellowship that I did over the summer when I interned at Gusto. He used to live in San Francisco at this point, now lives in New York City. On February 8th, 2023, 9 months before I did my first interview with this company, I message him, "Do you like DYDX?" his company. He says, "Bro, I'm a changed man. I work, then I go fucking ski every weekend. People are nice, code is great, so many perks. We go offsite in Vail. It's so fun." And that's what you get when you work at a company making a lot of money, but the team is small. You work hard and you play hard. And I say, happy for you, dude. I know you were hating your previous company, and I'm glad you finally found something you enjoy. They get a couple trips a year to NYC where they have an office, and then they can also expense conferences. So in short, the man is living his life. I am so happy for him and a little bit jealous because Bolt is getting up and down, people are getting laid off, and I'm potentially looking for my next move. Whenever you're starting something new, even if you know what you're supposed to be doing, like you want to get fit, you know you just need to go to the gym and eat healthy, it's hard to actually do it. So you often go on YouTube, you ask people for help, and that's what I did. I asked him how he interviewed, where else he interviewed, how he prepared, and he told me exactly what I knew he was going to tell me. Leak code, apply online, get referrals, the things I tell you. But just like you watching, sometimes you just want hope, you want familiarity, you want someone to tell you it's going to be okay. So we chat a little bit here and there. He goes through his entire process and tells me why he ended up signing at DYDX, and I'm like, this is a great company. Now, the one thing you need to know is that oftentimes you get scared, and after reading stuff online, after talking to him, I got a feeling that the interviews were going to be really, really difficult. And that's because of the entire persona they had created. If you go to their website, they talk about having the top 1% of engineers, and they only hire from the top FANG companies. And they actually, for a startup, match or exceed FANG compensation, which is a bold claim, but after talking to my friend, I know is true. It's like with a girl. If you think she's out of your league, you're going to stop being yourself around them. Well, it's the same with interviews. If you think it's going to be way harder than it might actually be, or you just psych yourself out, you're probably gonna get in there and be nervous. I do remember this one message, I'll read it to you. Just read about someone's experience interviewing at DYDX. You're way too humble. Apparently the interviews are insanely hard. All right, now we get to October 7th, 2023, where this story actually begins, but you needed all this context to understand why it's taken me this long to sit on this. DYDX just never felt like a place I would belong in. I don't feel like I'm particularly smart or exceeding expectations or a rock star 1% engineer from all these stacked schools. And when you look at all the people who work at this company, you can tell they've got something different. And so I just don't feel like I'd be a great part of that community. And so I don't even end up actually recruiting with them until October. And I message my friend again and say, hey, can you refer me to DYDX? I noticed that they have some non-senior openings. Notice that I did not apply online. I could have, but at that point in time online, there was this little challenge you would do, like a take-home project that you would actually zip up and attach with your submission. 1, I don't want to do it, and 2, I don't want to give them more information they could use to potentially reject me. Well, he ultimately refers me, and a couple days later, I remember this, I was home filming my Learning Java series. I actually live streamed it, and I started getting interviews at a bunch of companies, so I was preparing. Well, I talked to the recruiter. I think he might have been in Miami or something, which is kind of funny, but kind of reminds me of that work hard, play hard culture. It's going to be 2 back-to-back interviews, each 60 minutes, and that's the first round. And if you pass that, then you go to the on-site and do an actual project, but we'll get into all those details later because it feels like most people don't even pass the first round interview. Now, one thing to know is that by this point in time, my brother has already interviewed at this company because they open non-senior roles, and he's more junior than me. And I had a friend who had also interviewed at a senior level, and so I had 2 data points to tell me where I would probably be somewhere in the middle. My brother unfortunately did not pass the interviews, but my friend did and got the offer, and his offer was even bigger than the number I've told you in the title of this video and the intro. So I guess senior engineers really do make the most money. I'm gonna break down how the salary, compensation, bonus, equity, all that looked like for a company that is private like DYDX in the Web3 world that's going to be coming. But for now, just know that I had some data points on interview questions, on calibration, on difficulty, and then of course you also have Glassdoor and Reddit and whatnot to give yourself an idea of what to expect. We get off the call, and of course I'm more excited than ever. I really want to be part of this elite group of people, right? Who wouldn't want to be? At some point I get an email on October 16th, 2023, next steps with DYDX. She introduces herself and she tells me, as the next step for our software engineer backend role, we'd like to set up 2 technical interviews with 2 different engineers on our team. Each interview will be 45 minutes with 15-minute break between sessions. Please provide us some back-to-back availability because they're going to be together. The interviews will be coding interviews focused on general engineering fundamentals. During this interview, you'll be evaluated on your ability to collaborate with our engineers, write clean code, test, solve problem, you know, the classic. Now this is very interesting. They sort of told me how hard the interview is going to be by saying, if you want to brush up your skills, we encourage you to practice the medium to difficult. So medium to hards on leak code. So they're basically telling me it's going to be hard. My first interview also happens to be the most senior person. So like, come on, the odds are just not in my favor. Now, before I walk into this interview, I've talked to my brother and my other friend who've got an offer, and their interviews were extremely hard. Like, I can't tell you the exact questions, obviously. I can just tell you if you look up online, you might find something similar, but I'm talking like recursion, DB. Yeah, it's like, and it's one of those where the theory is so difficult, but when you actually sit down and write it, it's like 5 lines of code. So you either feel like a god or just so dumb. What I'm trying to tell you is that these interviews are just so hard. You probably already know that since I've been talking about it for so long. But the only person who's helping this entire time was my friend who actually works at DYDX, and he just kept saying, dude, it's not that bad. If I passed, you can pass. And I was like, dude, but you're also a god. And I want to thank Wondershare Filmora for sponsoring this video. In fact, this entire segment you're watching right now was edited with the new Filmora 14. For one, the background music was automatically created through the smart background music generator feature. It takes so long to find music that fits the vibe of your footage, and then even longer to actually cut the footage to match the beat of the music. Well, the smart background music generator gives you a one-of-a-kind, never-heard-before track, and as a creator, that's amazing because then I don't have to worry about copyright. As for the actual editing, you can use the AI Copilot feature, which feels like you just have another person on the editing team. You simply ask questions or make statements and then let the AI help you. Lastly, I love the AI text-based editing feature. I can use the transcript of my voice to edit out pauses or outright truncate clips to keep the flow retention-based. There are so many ready-to-go templates and endless formats to publish on social media. And all this is available today on Windows, Mac, iOS, or Android. Download Filmora 14 for free using my special link. Now let's get back to the video. Anyway, I walk into the interview and the question isn't hard. It's one of the questions you do for the first time in cracking the coding interview. Right when he gives me the question, I start fumbling a little bit, because if you just trust yourself and your instincts, you're gonna do much better. But I'm like, asking clarifying questions. I'm trying to really figure out, state all my assumptions, do all the right things to make sure I'm not missing something. Also, I wanna be careful that I'm not taking too much time, because if this happens to be the warm-up question and I'm treating it like the main question, I spent 30 minutes on it, then I'm also just done, right? And then I write the code, and the code works the first time, because not because I'm good, because it's not that hard. And he's like, yeah, I'm kind of happy with this. We have some extra time. Why don't we just refactor it? Instead of 2 loops, can you use 1? Instead of this, can you break it up? Let's do some like design stuff. And then actually it was kind of fun. Like, instead of worrying about the algorithm of this random question, and you never do algorithms at work, we start thinking about real stuff. Like, how am I going to check it into code, into production? It's super collaborative, super easy. It's really fun. So I finished that interview, and now I'm feeling good. The person I thought was going to be the hardest was first. I breezed through it. I'm ready for the next one. The new grad shows up, and he's a little bit less friendly, a little bit more just like matter of fact. It's kind of funny. I feel like the older you are, the more experienced, you're like, it's not that deep. Just like, it's not a zero-sum world. We can all win. But sometimes when you're talking to younger people, and I remember I was there at some point too, a little bit more uptight, right? It was really hard for them to get that. There's not that many entry-level roles. And so correctly so, understandably, they're a little bit more type A, a little bit more on. And so this guy's kind of like, okay, we're gonna be doing this question. And so I tried to take a step back and be like, okay, I remember the kinds of stuff I should be saying and thinking about, but I didn't have the full solution. It's still tricky. Like, when I'm coding it, I have to like really, really pay attention to make sure my indices are correct and stuff. It's kind of one of those questions where I knew the gimmick, but it wasn't trivial to just be like eyes closed type it. Not like the first one for sure, right? And so we're going through it and I'm writing it, and I think it doesn't work the first time, and he's like, what's the problem? But then I kind of catch it. And so I'm not as smooth as I was in the first interview, but I get the general gist, complete it, and it works. And then we actually go ahead and optimize it too, and that works too. So compared to the questions my brother and my friend got, I don't know if I got lucky. Of all the interviews, I've done so many at this point. I've gotten rejected from so many. At this point, I'm getting a little bit lucky. But then I don't hear back for a couple days. And then I start second guessing myself. Again, it's just like with a girl, right? You have a great date. You're like, I'm going to see her again. And she doesn't message you for a while. And then you're like, damn. You start judging your performance. Like, was I actually smooth? Did she have a good time? Maybe I shouldn't have said that one thing. And so I start messaging my friend, obviously. He's the only person I know at the company. And I'm like, hey, did I do okay? Have you heard anything? Like, was it too easy? Did I trip up? Did I misunderstand? He's like, dude, I have no idea. I can't see your interview performance. You just have to sit tight. And he's like trying to console me. And honestly, dude, thank you, because I was being so annoying. Anyway, I end up passing this interview, which is not that crazy because I just told you I killed both of them. But back at that moment, I was like so on top of the world because I finally could get some of the money, bro. $450,000. Like, yo, I want that. And so the next one is on-site. It's actually a project. I mean, not even a project. They actually give me a Slack invite. I hop on as an employee for the workday. I'm working on a self-sufficient thing, like a little mini project just for interviews, but I have access to their Slack. I can ask questions. Anyway, I hop on to my on-site, I'm paired with the person, and again, I just get unlucky with a newer person who is very aggressive, kind of a little mean. Like one of those arrogant people who's like, I'm here, like I'm about to judge if you're worthy. You know, like a gatekeeper. So like I'm trying to ask questions, he makes me feel a little dumb, and so I get the sense that maybe I shouldn't ask that many questions, I should just do it. And so I try to make some progress, DM him, I basically go through this whole project, and it's pretty cool. It's like integrating with real life APIs from Coinbase, getting crypto data, doing stuff with that data. I tripped up a little bit because I don't want to write a cache by myself, and so I was trying to use like a Python cache that was inbuilt, but that I had no experience with it, so I'm like reading tutorials and trying to figure it out, and it's just like, it's not working. Right? My stuff's not working for a while. And so looking back, I think one thing that I should have done was just done it from first principles. Just actually sat down and just written a cache by myself. Just written the optimizations because I have the intellect and the knowledge to do it. I was just scared. And so halfway through, I just sat down and I just did it myself. And I wish I just done that from the get-go. I think I would have been more successful. And then we have the meeting with everyone else. And I think I killed that meeting. Like I have a chat with the hiring manager or the CTO, head of engineering. I killed that one. We talked about my past experiences. I think I did really well, but then for some reason, my buddy, who I thought would have my back, was also the one who was asking me the hardest questions and like tripping me up. And every time I'd say something, he'd be like, but how would you think about latency? Or how would you guarantee that there are no deadlocks? And I was like, bro, like, can you chill? That sucks and didn't feel really good. And ultimately, I didn't get the offer. And I think it was, they told me it was because of my on-site. I think I did good enough for a mid-level engineer. And I think what ended up differentiating me from someone else who probably got the offer is that the person who helped me just wasn't that nice. And sometimes that's all you need. You just need some support, someone to tell you it's going to be okay, and someone to hold your hand a little bit. Now, I tell myself this to feel a little bit better, but it's a little toxic and I should be better than this. But they're not doing that well anymore. I think they have a lot of competition. The token value, I think, has plummeted. So looking back, if I joined the company and gotten that offer, I probably wouldn't have been making that much straight cash for a long time. But I didn't get the offer. Apparently, I wasn't smart enough. Or no, that's a lie. I was smart enough. My performance that one day just didn't show it. And that's something I have to tell myself. And it's something you have to tell yourself when you get rejected and fail. But that's okay, because there's another company that worked out of the World Trade Center. Yes, the actual World Trade Center on like the 80th floor with beautiful views of the city. They're a company that is public. They're a company that you know for sure. And they're a company that actually gave me an offer. But then they rescinded it. And that's so messed up. So that's the next story I'm going to be telling you very soon. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you learned something. Cheers.